It's not about the time you wake up. It's who you wake up to be. It's about how you show up. It is not a clock thing. It's a God thing. It's all about how we wake up, whether we wake up at 5 or whether we wake up at 8 or 10, or whether we wake up because we're really late because we're working the night shift. It's the start of our day. And how are we going to approach it? When we wake up and just say, I'm just not a morning person, or I hate waking up, we're always going to enter the day defeated before we begin.
Welcome back to the Going Deeper podcast. Today, I'm so excited. I'm joined by Jennifer Dukes-Lee. She is a multi-published author, and today we're going to be talking about how to love your morning. Jennifer, thanks so much for joining me.
So fun to be here.
We had a lot of tech issues, but we are here.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Praise
Thank
God.
the Lord. Proof that God is listening to even our littlest prayers. No prayer too small. We took a break. We prayed over it. Came back and boom, it was working. Thank you, Jesus.
We tried everything. And then we were like, what should we try next? Oh, maybe we should pray. And that seemed to work. So I'm very grateful for that. So I'll be honest with you. I have said for a very long time that mornings are the bane of my existence. I think I have memories of being in high school and my mom continually coming upstairs, Justine, you need to get out of bed. I was never that girl, and no shame to this girl, but I was never the girl that was like, I'm going to get up early and I'm going to curl my hair and I'm going to do my makeup. I'm going to look cute for all the boys. Like, I was an athlete. I did not care. I was like, I am interested in the next 10 minutes of sleep that I'm going to get before I go to school. And so it was very hard for me to get up in the mornings, and has been forever. I joke that all of my really close friends are early risers. In college, it's hilarious because one of my closest friends, Abby, she was my roommate. We lived in a dorm, and I have vivid memories of laying in bed. I would wake up to, the light coming in 9 a.m. She would be at the desk with a journal. Her laundry would be like draped over. She's like, I've lived a whole day. It's, So the mornings, and my closest friends know this about me, are a hardcore struggle. And it's been something that I've genuinely prayed about for as long as I can remember. Like, God, just help me be a morning person. Help me feel refreshed in the morning. Help me wake up. And so, in all honesty, your book was very, very needed and timely and very encouraging. And so I'm very excited to have you on. And frankly, I'm selfishly going to be picking your brain for myself. And I hope that just the vulnerability and the genuine I suck at mornings will speak to the person that's in that same spot. So can you just share a little bit about who you are, what you do for work, and what gets you excited about waking up in the morning?
Well, right now, has me very excited, by the way. I love this, that we get to kind of go through your morning, and I think it's going to help. It's a huge, huge blessing to get to be here with you. My name is Jennifer. We know that now. I am a wife of a farmer. We live on the family's 5th generation family farm in Northwest Iowa. So the Lee family has been farming here since 1870. Isn't that so cool? I mean, I just love it that we've been part of this food production for a very, very, very long time. It's so neat to be tied to the land and the history. I've learned so much about going deeper in my faith here on the farm because I see it play out behind my yard, out my kitchen window. These crops serve. Yeah, it's like it just serves as this sort of metaphor of like. When we plant seeds in the spring, millions of them over hundreds of acres, for a long time, you don't see any growth on the top. For a couple weeks anyhow, it's just going deeper. It's just like putting down roots into the ground. And it's just a really neat metaphor for what it means to have sustainable growth and good growth. Like we'll go out and be like, why are they going to grow this year? And of course they do. God's faithful. It's his job. We see,
And
he
you wrote a
brings the
book called
rain.
Growing Slow, right?
Yes, yes,
I
I
wanna read that.
did. Yeah,
That's on my
it's
to-be-read list.
really it's just really about rootedness and slow grow, like, letting things take the time they need to grow into something that's beautiful, and that's the way that God rolls. So, yeah, I mean, I am a farm wife, I'm very tied to the land. We have a couple of kids, they're now both grown and on with their lives. One lives in Indonesia as a full-time missionary,
Wow.
and our other is at Yale Divinity School for a couple more years, and
Cool.
yeah, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I used to be a newspaper reporter, gave that up to move to the farm, and now I like to say that I am still a news reporter, I just cover the good news of Jesus.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, I write books, I
Love it.
travel around North America to speak, and then I get to do cool things like be on podcasts with wonderful people like you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so I loved that your first thought when going to write this book was, "I'm gonna study every morning that's in the Bible." And that's not sounds like something I would do. I'm a really big fan of word studies and because it always just illuminates something different. And so you did that, and turns out there's over 200 mornings in the Bible. What's one thing you discovered that completely reframed how you think about mornings?
Yeah, the reason I did that is, because I wasn't going to go at this book trying to create some kind of a morning ritual or a morning rhythm without seeing what God had to say about mornings. That's really important for my books to be foundational into what God has to say. So it was an incredible journey through mornings of scripture. Some mornings, like, I never even paid attention to the fact that it happened in the morning. But what I discovered in a way that really profoundly impacted me is that God is a morning person,
Mm,
and because we're made in His image, we're morning people too. Like from the very first page of Scripture, we see that God is a morning person. The very first thing that He created on this earth was a morning when He said, "Let there be light." And then you travel all the way through the scriptures and you see it again and again. You see Abraham being told to go out early in the morning to do hard things. Moses, same thing. We see Jacob wrestling with God and waking up in the morning with a limp and a blessing. We see the Israelites wondering, how are we going to eat out here? And in the morning, sure enough, God provides manna. And then we see the best morning that ever happened
yeah,
unfolded on resurrection morning. The
right.
hardest morning on ever in this earth happened on the crucifixion morning. At 9 a.m. in the morning, he was crucified. We run clear off to the end of the scriptures, and we are reintroduced to Jesus as the bright morning star. So you take all of that together, and you realize that mornings aren't just a timestamp, like, oh, I've got to get up and face this day. Instead, we see them as something really sacred and valuable. So we can say, oh, I get to get up, and this is the gift of another day. And God, I invite you into it. Help me see you in this day.
I loved that. And you saying that you kind of learned God is a morning person. And you go on to say in the book, which I'd never heard anybody frame it this way before. And I'll be honest with you, because I have a challenging spirit. When you said everybody's a morning person, I scoffed.
I'm
And
sure.
then I was like, but I'm gonna give her a chance to prove me wrong, you know? Of course, as a writer myself, I'm like, I know what she's gonna do. She's gonna convince me that somehow I'm a morning person. And you did, because and I think that reframing was helpful because our words are so powerful, and I'm learning that recently a lot. And I've just been dwelling a lot on you know, be transformed by the renewing of your mind and recognizing that my goodness, I speak a lot of negativity and I speak a lot of powerlessness over myself often. You know, I use phrases like, oh, the morning is the bane of my existence, or mornings are so, I speak negatively about them. And so I loved how you reframed to kind of say, no, you are a morning person because God is a morning person and you were made in his image. And I thought, I think I needed that reframe. So how do you convince that to somebody who might also on the other side be scoffing? Like, no, I'm not.
Yeah. Well, I think that before I wrote this book, I wouldn't have necessarily called myself a morning person, because I thought a morning person was somebody who gets up at a certain time, like certainly before 6 a.m., and does a long list of things that are kind of like spiritual gymnastics and, all sorts of things that I wasn't doing. Because my morning routines through my whole life haven't really been like very Instagrammable. They wouldn't make a great, post on TikTok or anything. I mean, it's just like they're just super regular. So then we tend to see morning people as a certain way. Like we conflate early bird with morning person, but you can actually be a morning person even if you're a night owl. So it's not about the time you wake up. It's who you wake up to be. It's about how you show up. It is not a clock thing. It's a God thing. It's all about how we wake up, whether we wake up at 5 or whether we wake up at 8 or 10, or whether we wake up because we're really late because we're working the night shift. It's the start of our day. And how are we going to approach it? When we wake up and just say, I'm just not a morning person, or I hate waking up, we're always going to enter the day defeated before we begin. I love how you said it's so important to like what words, like how they land in our spirit, right? It's not just about claiming a label like, oh yeah, I'm a morning person. It's really about setting the trajectory for how you're going to live the day. It's like, God, I'm going to step into the rhythm of your creation. I am going to align my life with your renewing work. I am going to set my expectations and my intentions around the heart and the will of God. And that's going to look a lot of different ways for different people. But it is really just this open-handedness and open-heartedness of saying, God, I give you this day, whether we wake up at 5:30 or 9:30. And, I just want to back up for a second too and just say, you needing more sleep as a teenager, you needing more sleep maybe as an adult is not a bad thing. Like the best mornings begin the night before. Like teenagers are just naturally, the way that it works are just naturally up later. And our bedtimes kind of go earlier as we
Go to bed earlier.
as we age. Yes, our bedtimes are earlier as we age. So that's just that's like very, very natural. What happens now that we're adults and we have a little bit more agency over our lives, we look at our life and say, okay, I know I need this much sleep. And it's important that I get to bed at this time in order to have that sleep. So when I wake up at 5:30 or when I wake up at 8:30 or whatever it is, I have margin in my day to invite God into it and to start with him. And it's a lot of it really is about sleep. Which I know I just veered us off into something else, and we can talk about
No.
that or we don't have to, but I think it's really, really critically important.
No, and
I
I
interviewed
want
a
to
group of
that.
women for this book, and just the biggest obstacle to mornings is that people just wake up already feeling behind, and they're just absolutely exhausted.
Yes, I wanna get to that too. I think it's important to back up and also recognize that it wasn't essentially your idea to write this book. It was your kids.
Yes.
Your kids were like, "You have to write a book about mornings," which as a mom of 3, which they're little, but to know if I were to, fast forward 20 years from now, and if my kids were to say to me, "Oh my goodness, mom, you have to write a book about mornings," that is such a testament to the reality of how you did steward your mornings, you know? And so what do you say to just your kids being able to look at you and say, "You stewarded morning so well that you should write a book about it." What do you think
Yeah.
was the sort of legacy that you left them?
Yeah, so, this came out of, like, left field, this idea of this book, and it really was the girl saying, "Mom, you gotta write a book about mornings." And I'm like, "I don't even know what that looks like. I'm no expert on mornings." But, that day when they talked to me about that, they began to recount the way that mornings looked like in our home. And, I know it's a cliche or a saying or whatever, but there's this saying that's like, "Everything will be better in the morning." And, that goes back through, like, it's in poetry, it's in literature, it's in, just like oral traditions, it's just all over the place. And especially everything will be better in the morning is really the, who God is. That's what he's saying to us. Like, weeping may last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Or my compassions never fail. They are new and fresh every morning. Like, God is bringing that to us. Everything will be better in the morning. And so what that looked like in our house was, we went through a lot of hard things, like bullying and being left out of the lunch table and being stressed out over tests, breakups with a boyfriend when they got older. There were all kinds of things, different conflicts. And it's just like, let's pray about it tonight. Everything's going to be better in the morning. In the fresh light of day, there is hope. And we had practices that were, I don't know a morning with those kids growing up in this house that we didn't pray together out loud. Every morning we prayed. In the summer and in the school year, we prayed sometimes before we walked out the door. Sometimes we were rushed and we were praying in the car on the way to the bus stop. We prayed for things that were important to them, that were important to us, that were related to the people in our world that we knew needed God's care and comfort. They were simple prayers, not Instagrammable prayers. They were just ordinary, but they happened every morning. There was always nourishing food. There was always some kind of touch from mom or dad, a reminder that we are here with them. Like, we wanted to be the first faces that they saw, the arms that were opened up to them, to hold them, to listen to them, to love them, to laugh with them. Through different seasons, we had like a weekly memory verse sometimes that we would just go through in the mornings, or when they were really little. And I was trying to have some semblance of a quiet time, even though it was anything but quiet. I gave them little note cards with, they drew their prayers before they could write them. And then when they got a little bit older, they'd write Bible verses. And I still have them. They're so cute. Like, there's a picture of Jesus, and then Anna has written out or drawn out what she's thankful for, and there's like a piece of pizza on there. It's just, they're just these little things that didn't take a lot of effort, that I didn't know would ever be fodder for a book, that I didn't know were even making that big of an impact at the time. And the girls were like, Mom, don't you see us living this now? Don't you see us taking care of our bodies in the morning? Don't you see us that we have these prayer routines and we're reading the scriptures every morning? We believe that everything will be better in the morning, and that started at home.
Yeah. Part of when I look back, there was a family that really, really influenced my life. So I'm a military brat. So I moved around a lot. I went to 13 different schools. So really and truly, in the first 17 years of my life, you think the word that you could describe was uprooted or inconsistent. And I think that I have been working for the past 10 years to reverse that, to be rooted and to be consistent. But there was a family that really influenced me. And it was so fascinating because this would have been when I was like 13 or 14. One of my closest friends, an early bird and morning person. And I would do sleepovers at her house all the time. And they just had rhythms that were very set in stone, very kind of casual or nonchalant is just sort of what they did. Every morning I would wake up. Of course, who knows what time I would wake up. But when I would wake up, I would go out because I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, where's she at? She's not even in her bed. And I would go out and she would just be sitting on the couch with her journal and her Bible. And without even really asking her, I was able to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together, connect the dots to say, she has this habit because her mom has this habit and her dad has this habit. And I remember later on asking her about it and her just saying there was never a requirement to do this. There was never, it was just what they did. And so it's what we did. And I think even Tim Tebow has talked about how, he would wake up every single morning to his dad at the table with his coffee and his Bible open. And just that repetitiveness of seeing that in the mornings as a kid, how influential just the modeling of that is. And so I think that that's it's convicting for me as a mom just to sort of lay that foundation. Let's see. One thing that I definitely want to talk about is I think I have been, and I know everybody that's listening has been, greatly influenced, whether we want to admit it or not, by social media and just the online world when it comes to mornings and productivity. And nowadays it's all about optimization. I think I've been seeing these videos that are like my 5 to 9 before my 9 to 5. And I'm like, oh, we're constantly, you know, manufacturing and recreating and all this stuff, what a morning is supposed to look like. And I used to get very sucked into all of that, almost looking at it as like the solution to my problems of hating my mornings. But they always prove to be very futile. And I think I'm not exactly sure if I can put my finger on why that is. But can you just speak to this sort of cultural narrative that we have and how maybe the difference between really what the Bible says?
Yeah. I would hate my mornings too if I had to do all those things that I see on Instagram. I would. And I really honestly think that's probably why I didn't self-identify as a morning person until I read the scriptures to see what mornings are really all about.
Right.
Um, man, it I confession time, when I wrote the book, I wanted to have one of those patterns. I wanted to be able to find the tried and true thing that everybody could adopt. But it became really clear early on that that was not gonna be the case because, man, I mean, mornings are different whether if you're a college student or if you're a stay-at-home mom, if you're an empty nester, if you're a widow. I mean, there's just, like, major differences, and also whatever your chronotype is. So, like,
Yep.
maybe you are an early bird, maybe you
Yep.
are a night owl, like, that doesn't have anything to do with it. But, like,
Right.
so what I learned in the Bible is it's really fascinating because it doesn't really fit the whole quiet time motif that we've adopted as Christians. That is like you go to your table or your quiet time chair and you spend this amount of time and you have color coded commentaries and really beautiful handwriting in your really beautiful journal.
Yeah.
And and a fancy latte as well as harp music playing in the background. So all of those things set up this expectation of what it's supposed to look like to approach God. And then I go to the Bible and I see the mornings of Bible are pretty gritty. Like I see
Mm.
uh God saying to Abraham, when as soon as you wake up in the morning, I want you to take your son Isaac up that mountain. And there was no pushing snooze. There was no having, like an filtered quiet time. It was just flat out obedience to God. He didn't procrastinate. He didn't push snooze. I mean, it says very early in the morning, he got going. And I think about like the writer of Lamentations, which is a funeral song, really, essentially. That Lamentations is about lament. And in that, in Lamentations, the writer is describing how Jerusalem is in ruins. People are hungry. People are dying. It's a disaster. I mean, it is beyond bad if you go take a peek at it. And in the midst of that, there's this verse that says that God's compassions never fail, that they are new every morning. And most of us know that verse. We might have it like on a wall hanging or a coffee mug or cross-stitched on a pillow or something. And it feels like this beautiful, loving thing. His mercies are new every morning. But it was written in the midst of gritty, awful, hard mornings. And then we see Jesus in Mark 1, verse 35, I believe, after a really incredibly long day
Yep.
of everybody was looking for him. He was healing a bunch of people. There was just a long line out the door of people needing his love and care and comfort and healing. And he went to bed. And when he woke up, he went out to a solitary place, it says, to talk with the Father. And that is maybe like his quiet time, what we would call quiet time. He went out to a solitary place to meet with the Father. And sometimes I think that the Christian culture and devotional industry has taken that and turned it into this is what your quiet time is supposed to look like. Okay, then let's think about how Jesus did that. I don't think that Jesus rolled up all his scrolls and took them out to a solitary place. And in the Greek, solitary place is wilderness. That's not very Instagrammable. But what we see here from Jesus is, I am going to start my day with God. I am going to see what he has to do for me today. I need intimate, personal time with him. And so what that can mean for us in modern times is, what does it look like to get to a place to be with God? What does it look like to start our day with him? And it, hopefully will at some point involve some scripture, hopefully involve some prayer, but it does not have to involve hour-long quiet times and tomes of commentaries. It just doesn't. It's not what Jesus modeled. I am a huge proponent of biblical literacy. Anybody who's followed me for a long time on social media knows that. But those deep, deep times of study don't necessarily happen right away in the morning. Those deep, deep times of study might happen at other times in your life. And I think just this pressure of having like this 5 to 9 before your 9 to 5, yours might be 7 to 7:30
Right.
before your 8 o'clock. I mean, it's just so much pressure to have it look a certain way. And then the risk of doing that, of having this set time where you meet with God, and that is the risk in that. And I want people to spend time with God, is that you leave him in the quiet time chair.
Yep. 100%.
And if we need to talk with God right away in the morning, but we don't leave him there. He goes with us. He is with us in our walking around, our carpooling, our washing dishes, our doing laundry, our podcasting. I mean, he's in it all, our parenting, our caring for our neighbor, mowing the lawn. I mean, I don't care what it is. He is with us. And just to have that awareness of his presence is really important.
There's so many different directions that I want to go because I have so many things that I want to say. Goodness gracious. One thing that you talked about was there was no snooze. And one thing recently, and reading your book has really drummed up a lot of me thinking through this, because I got to a point, frankly, where I just said to myself, I'm not a morning person. I'll never be a morning person. I sort of just gave up because, when I look at the sort of story that I've told myself over the past 20 years, essentially at this point, and the many, many times that I have quote unquote tried to become a morning person, it's always failed me. And I think a lot of it has to do with what you're talking about, this expectation of what that even looks like and what that even entails, and just setting myself up for failure, essentially. So I got to this point. I think it was just a collision of multiple different things all at one time, but a lot of it started with your book and kind of reframing the idea of, okay, I need to stop speaking this way over myself, and I need to start speaking the truth over myself that I am a morning person, and a morning is, and I would like to call myself a very hope-filled person, but for whatever reason, that 30-minute period when I'm awake, I don't feel as much of a hope-filled person. But there is so much truth in the gift of a new day and a do-over, a reset, and just really taking it more as a blessing than sort of a curse. But one thing that I thought, and I think this is just the Holy Spirit that kind of gave me this idea, it's wrapping back around to the no snooze, was I was doing research on renewing your mind and just the power of that. And also this kind of idea of being rooted and consistent and kind of undoing my past, if you will. And I thought, man, what would be the first place I could start in practicing this? Because I feel like there's a lot of other areas that are pretty rooted and stuff. But when it comes to this area of my life, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's more chaotic, out of order, messy, gritty, kind of like you were saying. And I would love to create some more rhythm and rootedness in my mornings. And so I thought that would be a great place to try. But I've tried this so many times. So what can I do differently this time around that would potentially actually work? And I kind of had this thought of, what if my goal wasn't be up at 5 a.m. and do X, Y, and Z? What if my goal wasn't be up at 5:30 or any specific time particularly at all? What if my goal was extremely like small and very easy to like accomplish. But the goal is to just do it, period. And I thought it needs to be to not hit the snooze button. It needs to be that when my alarm goes off, I have to get up. Like that's my one rule. And I'm not even kidding you, Jennifer. This was like a month and a half ago. I thought to myself, because at that time my kids were waking up between 7 and 7:30, and my son's almost 6, and I've been waking up to my kids for the most part, unless I have something going on. And I just roll with that. But I don't want to, because I'm always a better mom when I get up before them, even if it's a small amount of time. So I set a goal that I was going to get up when my alarm went off at 7 a.m. And when they wake up at 7:05, that's all I had. And oddly enough, that worked. And I kept my phone on a charger in my bathroom. And it was like, okay, that's my only goal, is if it goes off and I get up, I don't go back into bed. And because it was it's 7 a.m., you know what I'm saying? Like, it's time to get up, Justine, period, end of story. And then it was like, okay, rather than being ambitious like I always have been in the past, because it's not about the time, right? I thought I'll just very incrementally move that back a little bit by a little. So then I changed, I think after a few days, I did 6:55. And then after a few days, I was like, okay, this is getting more manageable, because I don't know why, for whatever reason it is. And then eventually it moved back to 6:45. And that's very manageable to be like, okay, and then I backtrack in my head, because you talk about 8 hours of sleep in the book. And I know I need that sleep, but I'm definitely somebody that needs sleep. And so I'd backtrack and say, okay, if I'm going to wake up at 6:45, what time do I need to go to bed? Because I play tricks in my mind, and I'll say, oh, I didn't get 8 hours. I need more, So that just very singular goal of not hitting the snooze button, and also coupling that with a very realistic goal that forces me to get up and face the day, has been very helpful. So I just wanted to share that in case anybody else is like me and it's not waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning.
I
Oh,
love
goodness
that.
gracious.
Yeah. I mean, especially like overachievers tend to be like, well, then I'm going to take all of these things and I'm going to do all of these things. And that's how I'm going to revamp my morning. It is so critical to just start with the most basic thing. And there were two really powerful things that you did there. You made, you're making a consistent habit of setting the alarm and having your phone in another room, and you're already up and you're moving, and those two things are so critical. So you're already giving yourself just a little bit of margin in the morning before even just that 5 minutes, that little bit of margin to even just like hold your hands out and just say, God, I give you this day. Thank you for the gift of another day. I'm curious if I can ask you a question.
Please.
You had said that for some times in your life, or for a long season of your life, you haven't felt that hope, like in that 30 minutes, like that hope-filled feeling in the first 30 minutes. What happens? When do you notice that the hope comes? And what is happening that has you feeling that hope?
Well, I think I hate to admit this, but I think it might be the coffee. So there's like this window of time where it's not like a depression or anything. It is, I actually was just reading Elizabeth Elliot's book, Joyful Surrender. And in it, she shared this like little poem or saying or something from somebody about being slothful in the morning and like throwing off the sloth. And I think that that's what I would describe myself in the first, and it's not always 30 minutes. Sometimes it's just 10 minutes, but it's a very slothful, very sluggish, very not alert feeling. And I think because I wake up that way, and almost every single one of my friends, I'm not kidding you, they're all up at 5:30. They're just early, right? They're just early birds. They are.
That's right. Yeah.
And so being friends with them is very hard. So I think there's an expectation, and I think just I think it's like I fail every morning in my head because I'm not whatever that is. I don't have that gift of being an early bird. And so I wake up, like you said, defeated. And so there's this like mental sluggishness, but I'm working to fight that off quickly with prayer, um,
And with coffee.
and with coffee. Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus doesn't want me talking to him at all until I've had at least half a cup. I make a beeline for the coffee. Like, I am dreaming about my first cup of coffee before my head even hits the pillow. So I am
Yeah.
right there with you.
Goodness gracious.
There, there is
Okay.
something about it. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I have so many questions that I want to ask you. Okay, let's talk about the morning archetypes.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even the morning. Well, chronotype is pretty simple. You're either isn't it like night owl, early bird, and then just like a
And
normal?
then like a day type. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what are these morning archetypes, and which one are you?
Yes. So that's kind of where I was going with this, Justine. I was thinking maybe you were going to tell me that you start to feel like kind of alive and the sloth is pushed off when you start your work day,
Yes.
possibly.
Yes. I mean, a stay-at-home mom. I am a stay-at-home mom, so my work, quote unquote, is very fluid and it's different
Uh-huh.
every single day. And my first hour or two in the morning is with my kids. And, of course I love my kids, but it's you wake up and this, you're, you know, giving people water and
That's right.
making eggs and you're at the beck and call. And so I've known for a long time that to have a little bit of space beforehand is beneficial. But I think what was my morning archetype? Oh
I
god.
thought
Oh,
maybe you were a doer.
I am a doer, but I think I am a doer, but I'm also I love the study. I really do.
Mm,
Uh, but I think you're right in the sense that I actually do most of my Bible study in the afternoon. Almost always deep study for me is like random times of the day.
mhm.
But I enjoy like this morning we just went out and it was 7:30 in the morning and the sun was rising and thankfully it's not super humid. I had my coffee and we just went out to the front porch and I just brought my Bible out there with the kids and I just have a singular highlighter because I do enjoy doing that. And Bo, my son, just sat next to me on the front porch while I'm reading through Titus and just kind of highlighting things and it was no more than 5 minutes.
Mm,
But even just that was reorienting
that's good.
to yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so, okay, that's really good to know. So, the reason I ask that is because, sometimes I think when we wake up and, that we have to feel a certain way or do a certain thing, because we're a Christian. And
Mhm.
usually that is, I must immediately um, start reading the scriptures, which is a really great thing to do.
Mhm.
But there's what I learned when I interviewed all of these women is that we actually fall into these 4 different archetypes. And it's basically a fancy word that means your personality, like how God
Yeah.
made you.
Yeah.
And so the 4 types are as follows. The first one is daybreak doer. And this is somebody who really they're probably most productive in the morning. They are eager to get going on the work that they love or just even do things around the house, just feel they have a sense of purpose. They have a sense of this what I'm doing matters. Uh,
Mhm.
and that is not to say that a person should just jump headlong into work, but what it does mean is like acknowledging I am a doer. So probably the first thing that I need to do is make a quick list of my to-do list, the things that I get to do today, this great work that God put before me. And alongside that to-do list, writing down like things that you're grateful for or intentions, like that kind of overall
Mm,
big picture to-do list, like intentions with God,
mm,
setting the tone for your day. Then setting that aside and maybe sitting down for some Bible reading time or some prayer time. But just even taking your to-do list and say, God, I give you this day. I don't know what's going to come. Like, let my
mm.
work glorify you, all those kinds of things. And just acknowledging God made you that way.
Mm.
And a lot of times doers
I
are
love that.
super distracted by their work. So I encourage people to have a not now list by their Bible. Like I know I need to deal with that, but I don't need to deal with that right now. So it's like a
Mm,
distraction list where you write things down so you can focus on what God has for you in his word or in journaling or whatever. So that's a daybreak doer. The second type, which is the type that I am, is a morning mover. A morning mover really has their, you know, mood and metabolism kind of kick-started by movement. So for me, that's a HIIT workout with friends in town. For some people, it is a walk around the block or stretch routine. I know I interviewed some women that they do like weights in the garage with their husband before the kids wake up. And it really just kind of gets them going and they build everything from there. So this morning I had my HIIT workout, came home, grabbed a cup of coffee. They're my favorite mornings of all because I have to get up way earlier to go into my workout. I live in a little town. There's only one workout choice. So I have to get up early, go into town. But on those mornings, I have more margin and more time with God. It's just a beautiful way to begin the day. Then the third type is a social seeker. So social seekers really thrive on being connected to others. Little kids are often social seekers. They come bounding out of their bedrooms and they have stories that have been pent up in their heads for an intolerable number of hours. And they just want to tell mommy, hey, I can tell you this.
Yes.
I found that widows who recently lost a spouse were social seekers, but they didn't even know it because they've lost their person. And a lot of the morning routine was around this person that maybe they prayed with, that they liked to talk with first thing in the morning. And with that gap, all of a sudden there was just this wide open canyon opened up. And then there is the meditative mind. And this is somebody who needs those few minutes or however long it is, like immediately to spend time in the Word, to, step outside with your Bible, with Titus and highlight it, to be out in nature and just be like, God, I just want to have a moment of stillness with you before anything else. And some of it is like that traditional quiet time, that's where you actually need to start your day to have peace and hope. So when you know what that is, when you know what your type is, you don't have shame about that type. You lean into that type. You start your morning ritual with that type, and then you build it out from there. So it doesn't mean so for the doer, you might not have your quiet time, like your full-on deep Bible study happening right away in the morning. You might, again, have that in the afternoon or on the weekends or something. But certainly all of us, no matter what type we are, should engage with God at the start of the day. There's nothing in the Bible that says that we have to do that, but obviously morning is a natural time to begin your day with God.
Yeah, I think that's very encouraging to me because even when it's almost like you need somebody to tell you what you are or who you are because it's like, I don't know what I know. I don't know. Especially being a mom and this season is so chaotic and my mornings do look so different. Half the time I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm waking up to my kids. So maybe I'm, but I do like quiet, so I wasn't sure. But the more, I think you're completely right because I would identify as a doer, period, with as a personality for sure. Somebody that's very driven. I am somebody that's very work oriented. I even as a stay at home mom, I get a lot of purpose from work and creating things and bringing about things that are important to me. And so I think you're right in that. And that's very encouraging. I love that very practical idea of maybe in the mornings you are focused on your intentions for the day and your to-do list for the day. Because I am personally motivated by a to-do list that does bring me joy to know I've got purpose ahead of me. Even if that purpose is, family devotions or whatever it would be. So that was very encouraging. So I want to take a pivot really quick to the more gritty times in life. And I think this could also overlap because I want you to speak to the person that is in a really dark season and it doesn't feel like joy has come in the morning, but genuine mourning comes in the morning. And then maybe we can pivot to the person that maybe they're not dealing with grief, but their mornings are still just not peaceful. They're not joyful. They're messy and chaotic and maybe more discouraging and frustrating. Maybe it's mental health or just circumstantial. So maybe we can talk through that. Like what did you learn? You talk about your father being on hospice. What did you learn about mornings from that experience?
Yeah. So, when Dad was in the process of dying of congestive heart failure, it went on for many, many months, and we were really hoping to keep Dad home. And as a result, that meant that I was not only his daughter, I became one of his caregivers. So mornings were complicated. Like they they felt like another a gift of another day, but also one day closer to Dad not being here and losing him little by little every day. And he would need things immediately, like needing his meds, needing food. I got helping take care of Mom, social workers, nurses. I mean, it was chaos. And it was in the midst of all that, I was grieving. Then I'd come home and I was overwhelmed by all the things that I was so very behind on after being gone for several days. So, sometimes I was just like, morning routines are for people who have things all together. They are for people who, that it's quiet and it's peaceful already. And I just don't have time for that. And during that time, I'm like, the morning routine is dispensable. Like that's the thing that's got to go. What, but what I realized in that is, um, the mornings that I feel the least like praying are the mornings that I really need to pray the most. The mornings I feel the least like worshiping are the mornings I need worship the most. I mean, it's not always pretty. I mean, like sometimes you'd think that crisis would drive me to God, but sometimes it does the opposite because in hard times, my spiritual rhythms sometimes fall apart. And I hate admitting that out loud because I'm a person who writes about the value of morning routines, but that's just, I've walked through seasons of grief and anxiety and loss and uncertainty, but I'm continue to learn something really important. Those soul keeping rituals aren't just for my best days. They're for my worst days. It's choosing to see each day as a gift, and not waiting for perfect circumstances to lift my life up to God is really, really important to me. I just can't afford to put God on the back burner, during those times. I need him more than ever. So for me, what it looks like is just shrinking everything down into this
Mm.
manageable format. So whereas now that I'm an empty nester, I can have like a 15 to 30-minute quiet time every day. It's lovely. It's a luxury. I didn't have that when I was a young mom. But now, during that time, it was like, I'm going to listen to worship music while I get ready for the day. I'm going to do the 2-minute thing on the Bible app, the YouVersion
Yep.
Bible app, listen to
Yep.
that while I get ready. And then what I did, I would go upstairs after those 2 minutes. I'm like, Dad, you'll never guess what verse I just read today. So then he became a part of my morning routine, right? So like we were able to talk about the scriptures and I was able to be a better caregiver because I had encountered God and now I could have that moment with him. What a gift, right? It wasn't pretty. It was, Dad had an oxygen mask on. He was in pain. I'm talking about like John 15 to him while I'm giving him his morning meds. And I mean, it's, it just is, it's just a complicated time, but the rhythms don't have to be complicated. They can just be shrunk down and made accessible. Um, and that also included things like, remembering that when I gave my dad his meds, I needed mine. Like I had to take care of my body too. When I made breakfast for dad, I needed mine. I needed nourishment in this body that God gave me. So it's doing all those things. I needed sleep. So making sure that I got my 8 hours of sleep, getting to bed on time instead of like doom scrolling at the end of a day saying, revenge bedtime procrastination. You've heard about it,
Yep.
right? Like,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like this me time at the end of a day, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I should have been in bed an hour ago. So holding on to those things, and sometimes just the very basic things like sleep, food, meds, community, and that's how I made it through that season, and that's how I make it through any hard season. I just can't wait for perfect conditions to decide I'm going to start my day with God and believing the best.
I love that. I love that you talked about just shrinking it down and making it manageable. But like the one thing that can't go is the intentional giving your day to God and intentional dependency on God. So that's such a beautiful picture. We have like 10 minutes left, but I still wish I could talk to you for 30 minutes. So maybe we could pivot to the person that's like, okay, I, maybe it's the person that's like, I have a couple of friends that have really heavy circumstances between mental health, kids, diagnosis, all the things, and they probably can't even get out of bed. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what encouragement would you give that person?
Yeah, the person who can't even get out of bed and is just yeah. Um, the good news is God isn't waiting for you out in the quiet time chair. Like, he just like, imagine Jesus sitting cross-legged at the end of your bed. Just like, "I'm here. I'm with you. I'm your savior, but I'm also your friend. I'm
Mm,
here. I see
yeah,
you. I know." Um, in remembering too that no matter how hard our mornings are, Jesus gets it. At 9 a.m. on a Friday morning, he was crucified. Like, it was the worst morning imaginable, and he had faced, every betrayal, every temptation, every loss, and such great pain, and that is the friend who sits cross-legged at the end of your bed, this one who knows how hard mornings can be. Um, and I think about, like, if God were to whisper into the ears of the disciples, like, on Saturday night after the crucifixion, he would, if he would have said anything, maybe he would have said, "Everything will be better in the morning." And it was. And then, they
right.
get to the tomb and Jesus is risen. So this same God, this same Christ who understands your hardest moment and is with you in it also is victorious over all of your pain, over death, over the grave, over your sin, over your shame, over everything that has you barely able to lift your head up off the
Yeah, that's such good news. I think I love that you keep reiterating that God isn't waiting for you like at the table with your quiet time. And I think that that's a really a good reminder for so many people who, I think it's very just cultural for us to live compartmentalized lives.
Mhm.
Our work lives here,
Yeah.
home is here, church is here, sports is here, school is here, very compartmentalized. There's just not a like holistic. And I think it's just logistically the way that the modern world is set up here, that's built in, it's like baked into it. Whereas if we could get outside that mentality, specifically with our own faith and walk with God and take him out of the box of quiet time and take him out, just this one little space, I think it just really frees you. And I even had that thought that this morning specifically, I struggled a lot with maybe it wasn't shame or guilt or conviction or anything over not being in Bible study first thing in the morning. But I definitely think I felt like, oh man, well, there was an expectation that I didn't meet. And so just starting out defeated already when that expectation is not put on us in scripture, right? I think if the bar is really, really low, it's a single turning our face towards the Lord in prayer, and
Mhm.
it's a recognition. So I love that you talk in the book about how when you walk over to your I don't you said when you first get out of bed, like before you even get out of bed, you turn your face to the Lord. And then when you go and get your coffee, you've got a list of people that you're
Yes.
praying for specifically. I love that idea. I'm going to start doing that. Just these very practical ways that we can turn ourselves toward the Lord in the smallest of moments, and that being sort of the standard rather than I have to meet God with a Bible open and my coffee at the table and it has to be quiet, you know? Oh, such good stuff. The one other thing that I had an aha moment while reading your book. It's just one of those things where you like, I've read this passage a million times, but it doesn't hit the same until somebody else explains it. And it was when you were talking about Jesus napping. And I'm like, that's another thing that I've always beat myself up on. I must just be a pretty hard on myself person. I guess I don't realize it. But I have always beat myself up when I do get up early in the morning, if I have to be somewhere or I go to a fitness class or we walk with friends early in the morning. If I'm up at 5:30 in the morning, I almost always feel the need to nap come 1, 2 p.m. And I used to beat myself up a ton over that. Like, oh man, like I don't want a nap. I don't want to be a person that needs a nap. And you just pointing out, Jesus napped. I'm like, holy moly, the God of the universe nap.
Right.
What? Just like what a freedom. I love that you brought that up.
Yes. I think that's so important. Again, sleep is so critical to the quality of a morning and also to the quality of a day. I really encourage people who do have to get up early for whatever reason, to take naps. A short nap can really recharge you if you've had a rough night's sleep. I don't think people should feel guilty about naps. They're a natural way to support what your body needs. So, and yeah, Jesus did it. So let's go, right? I mean, there's this really cool verse in the Psalms that said, God grants sleep to those to those he loves. God grants sleep to those he loves, which I think is really cool because it doesn't mean that he doesn't love you if you can't sleep well. But what it does mean is that this idea of sleep is a real gift, in whatever way it comes. There are no other species on the planet that like deprive themselves of sleep on purpose other than human beings. Every animal just knows it's time for bed. The birds know when the sun starts to go down, they go back to their nests. And we are the only species that's just like, I'm just going to push it out a little bit harder. I'm going to work harder. I'm not going to nap. I'm going to get up early and work late. It's ridiculous. That's not the way that God made us.
Right. I love this. Would you say if you had to, after writing this book and studying 200 mornings in the Bible, looking at the morning of Jesus, what would you say is the number one first step that somebody should take in order to bring about more intentionality in their mornings?
I think it is to decide how you're going to name a couple things. Those are really easy steps to say, I am a morning person because God is a morning person. It doesn't matter when I wake up, it's how I wake up. It's believing that God's mercies are new every morning. They aren't recycled. They are brand new, fresh, just for me. And I'm going to walk in that truth. And the second thing is when you start to build out a ritual for yourself and call it a ritual. Don't call it a routine because if you're like me, it feels routine. It's like
Mhm.
boring, mundane, these things that I have to
Yeah.
do. It's performative. But when it's a ritual, this thing that I get to do that's sacred, it's meaningful. I'm inviting God into it. So my coffee time when I'm grabbing coffee is just as quote spiritual as my Bible time because I go to the coffee maker and I say out loud in my kitchen, this is my coffee ritual. And it brings a smile to my face, and I thank God for coffee. I mean, I know that's so weird, but it's just inviting God into all these things, making the prayer list. It's just right there. All these little habits stacked up on top of each other. Just try one of those things.
Mhm.
Call something a ritual. Call yourself a morning person. And, really, probably the biggest thing, I know you didn't ask for this one, but get to bed on time. That's gonna make a huge difference for how your morning goes.
Yeah.
Getting the required sleep is so, so critical.
Yep. I'll even confession here. It's hilarious because I chuckled at myself this morning when I knew I was going to be interviewing you and I was flipping through your book and seeing the revenge bedtime. What's it called?
Procrastination.
That's it. So, I haven't done this in a long time. Genuinely. I feel like I've been very good at getting to bed at a good time. But last night, for whatever reason, I was like, there's a little revenge bedtime procrastination happening here. And at like 9:30 p.m. at night, I decided I think I want to start the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders new season on Netflix and watch that. And I knew what I was doing. I knew it was a poor choice, and I couldn't turn it off until like 12:30, and
Yeah.
I even was, hitting my head, "What are you doing?" And I told myself like, Not going to happen again. Don't do that again tomorrow night. But it's very real. That is a very real thing where you're like, I didn't get enough time in my day. I didn't have enough me time. And so I knew this is for
I'm
me.
owed this. Yes.
Yes, I am owed this. But I have found, and I think the last thing I'll say that, because this has been a very encouraging conversation for me. I feel like I can very practically take a lot of things away. But I think that for me, when I have, like with the ritual, and I've done the very small things that set the bar real low and had very small standards for what the morning looks like. And I have, because, my alarm is going off at a not a crazy time. It's not 5, it's not 5:30, it's not 6, it's 6:30, and I'm choosing to not hit snooze. And I tell to myself, okay, you don't even have to go to bed at 9 p.m. Because I know some people are like, you need to get to bed at 9 p.m. I'm sorry, I'm never going to be able to get to bed at 9 p.m. You don't even have to get to bed by 10 p.m. As long as you're in bed by 10:30 p.m., you should still be able to get up at 6:30. And that to me is very realistic.
Yes.
It's very practical. It allows for life because, I'm not out doing things past 10:30 p.m. I'm always home at 10. And so I can do that. I can stick to that. And I love that was your morning routine. Like you're up at 6:30. You're not up at some crazy time.
Right.
And the rituals are a great idea. So many good things. I love this. I can't recommend this book enough because there was like 7 notes that I wanted to bring up, but they're all addressed. They're all addressed in your book. How to Love Your Mornings, Faith-Filled Habits to Build a Life of Joy and Purpose One Day at a Time. Is there anything else that you want to leave with the people listening?
Yeah. Another just simple practice. The whole book is built around the pillars of heart, soul, mind, and strength because Jesus said that was the greatest commandment, to love the Lord your God with all of your heart and your soul and your mind and your strength. Even just posting that verse somewhere and saying, God, this morning and for this day, I'm going to love you with all of my heart and my soul. I'm going to love you with my mind. I'm going to love you with my strength, even my physical strength. I'm going to take care of my body, Lord. And that would have been part of his morning ritual because he was a Jew. He grew up and from the time he was a baby, he would have heard a prayer called the Shema. And in the Shema, every morning, Jewish people would pray, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the same thing at night. But that was a part of his morning ritual would be to pray that prayer. It's first mentioned in Deuteronomy. And that can be ours too. That can be our intention. He was saying, God, I'm going to love you with all that I am, every part of me. And we can do that too, to love the Lord our God with all of our heart and our soul and our mind and our strength. And in that way, we truly can begin to love him with all of our morning.
That's such a good place to land. And I think it's a very, very encouraging place to leave somebody who every morning looks so different. Some are grieving, some are waking up to kids. But if all we do is pray that and we just say, Lord, I give you my morning and how can I love you with my heart, soul, mind, and strength? Like that's the expectation, right? Or the standard. It's not all these extra things. So this has been so great. I think this is a good place to land. So share with everybody where they can find you.
I'm Jennifer Dukesley everywhere. JenniferDukesley.com, Jennifer Dukesley on Instagram and Facebook. And you can find out more about the book at howtoloveyourmorning.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Jennifer.
Thank you.